Every Friday, we have Mindshift Friday, where we get to look at interesting topics and interesting subjects from slightly different perspective to gain a deeper understanding of what we are talking about. I'm sure you've heard the statement, your network is your net worth. Sounds nice, sounds catchy, but what does it mean? Is it even true? You know, sometimes when you read some of these quotes, they sound nice. Sometimes you even use them in a speech. But what exactly do we mean when we say your network is your net worth, and is there a truth in that? Got two amazing people joining me in studio today. We've got Mary Njoki. Mary Njoki, how are you doing?
I am well. How are you?
I'm very fine. Karibu sana. Uko wapi leo?
I'm in Johannesburg.
Salimia watu wa South Africa.
Tawasalimia.
Thanks for joining us today. Kelvin Otiende, how are you doing?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm very fine. Habari ya Kisumu Dala?
Niko sawa, but I was hoping you'd ask me where I am, so I say I'm in the UK.
Okay, let's rewind. Wheel it selector. Kelvin Otiende, how are you doing today?
I'm great, thanks.
Where are you?
I'm in the UK, United Kisumu.
That's a nice one right there. That's a nice one. It's good to have both of you. Thank you for finding the time to be part of the show today. We appreciate that. I'll begin with you, Kevin. Just like I was saying in the intro, this statement, we keep hearing it a lot, that your network is your net worth. Is that just another fancy quote, or is it actually a true statement?
No, there's nothing fancy about it. And we live in a time where, before, I will say that statement meant, who do you know, who is your father?
Mm-hmm.
But we no longer live in the era of who's your dad. We live in the era of what do you do, and who do you know, and who knows you. Most importantly, who knows you? Yeah, can you walk into a room and people will be like, I know that guy, and this is what he does. So there's nothing fancy about it. It's just the practicality of our generation. And it's very important, because if you do not have a network, then basically, if I was to equate it to a supermarket, I think your network is the stock you keep in the shelves and in the stores. So it's very important that you maintain the most important people in your career, in whatever you do, even if it is in sport, because these are the same people who are going to basically lift you up and put you in a position of let's listen to what that guy say.
Okay, saying that, it kind of sounds a bit contradictory to what I see today, and maybe Mary, you can say something about this, because today it's all about gaining as much as you can. Forget about relationships. Step on whoever you need to step on, throw whoever you need to throw under the bus, as long as you get what you need. Maguta, money in the bank, whatever it is. It really doesn't matter about people. It's about what you can get. So I'm just wondering, how do the two connect? Because it seems like we are more on this side in this generation.
I think for me, number one, I interpret that quote very differently. Because I think the person who came up with the quote is Tim Sanders, when he said, your network is your net worth.
Yeah.
And when you look at what is net worth, people refer to net worth as wealth.
Yes.
But when I look at that particular quote, I tend to interpret even the word wealth, differently.
Okay.
So even when I'm saying your network is your net worth, I'm thinking of the people around you who help you grow in terms of the values that you have. We all know, we can try as hard to say that wealth is the things we see, but we've all seen, like, over the years, we know wealth is, you cannot say you're wealthy because of the things you touch, the cars and the money and everything. We all, like, it's very clear, like, deep down, any human being understands that. And we've seen people who are really wealthy in terms of material things, but yet they're not wealthy. Like, they're not satisfied. They're still looking for something else. So when I think of that particular quote, your network is your net worth, I think of surrounding yourself with people that will help you grow as a person. And, going further to what you're talking about, definitely we are in a generation where everyone is want to step on the next person to get to where they want to be. But for me, again, it goes back to their network. It means their network, that is what their network is doing. So their network is not being their net worth at that particular moment.
Okay. You said something there, and I'm just wondering, Kevin. Mary is saying, surround yourself with people who will make you grow. And I'm thinking, isn't that kind of selfish? You're just thinking about yourself. So, and is this whole purpose of networking just thinking about me, who can get me to the next level, who can get me to where I want to be? Is that what it's all about?
No, it's not selfish at all. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to grow as a person. And, the whole world, I think we're built in a way that we all use each other. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're in your parents' house, for example. You're using them for rent and for food. I have a 5-year-old daughter. I pay fees for her. While you could argue that she's using me to get education and all that, I'm also using her to get my joy, to secure my retirement. I mean, it goes round. So if you do not, look at the alternative. Mm-hmm. The alternative is you sit at home and you're miserable. And then other opportunistic vices will come, like alcoholism, like you're depressed, like your friends are growing and you're still stuck at the same level.
Yeah.
I was born in Eastlands, mm-hmm. and I still have so many friends that I left behind. Mm-hmm. And you try to get so many people out of that, but not everybody shares your aspirations. And for me, I look at it from, what if I don't do this? Will I get 10 million shillings by sitting at home, or do I have to get out of my comfort zone? Mary and I are in agency. Do we have to do proposals and strategies to get contracts and tenders and stuff like that? So if you look at the alternative and you're comfortable living a miserable life, then that's okay. That's up to you. But if you look at it from a point of, I need to grow, even biblically, you're supposed to secure the next generation. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to ensure that your third and fourth and fifth generation don't have to suffer. So if you look at it from that perspective, then the choice is yours.
Okay. Now, the reason I'm asking that question is because looking at this whole thing from the other side, Mary, somebody else is also looking at me as a person who will help them to grow. And so if I'm approaching this networking thing without knowing who I am and what I have to offer, because somebody's using the same word Kevin used, somebody's looking at me and thinking, how can they use me? So if I don't have any value, if I don't have anything to bring to the table, even the people I'm trying to connect with, maybe at one point or another, they will look at me and see I'm adding no value to this relationship, and they will look for somebody else. I don't know if that makes sense.
I wouldn't use the word use. But I think, as we were talking, what I was thinking was the body. Really. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking of how the body has different parts and that has different functions. And I think this has been taught a lot when, from a biblical perspective, but truly it works. I feel like every one of us, when we fully understand who we are able to play our roles very well. Mm-hmm. So when we come together, it's usually like a body. So I tend to believe, and I've seen it over time, and especially when I talk to people, that each and every person was uniquely brought to earth, yeah. I think, and that's why we have different DNA. So everyone has a different strength that they bring on the table. Whether we like it or not, we just have to push them for them to bring that on the table. And then when we come together, even in my office, I'm like, there are things, I can do a lot of things. I'm graced to do a lot of things, but there are things I can't do. And I'm usually like, I tell an intern, I can't design this website or this, but I want you to design. Mm-hmm. So at that particular time, this intern gives me strength in that way. They come on board, they create a web or they create a design for me, and I give them strength by continually encouraging them. So for me, I look at it as different people giving each other strength and growing.
Okay. Okay.
So,
yes, Kevin.
Mary used the website, and the intern used encouragement.
Not use, we strengthened each other. Strength.
Let me ask another question.
We gave each other strength.
Let me ask another question, just based on what Mary has said. Maybe Kevin, you can take this, because Mary, okay, you're using the example of you and your intern, and I'm just thinking, okay, that may not necessarily be a deliberate networking because you find yourself in the same environment. I mean, you had better know how to work together, otherwise this thing will not, you know, if the intern is not performing, then they will have to find another place to intern. So I'm saying that to ask Kevin, how then do we get very deliberate in building strong networks? And not just networks that happen because we're in the same vicinity anyway, so we had better get along and see if we can build a relationship here. But just being deliberate in knowing who to connect with and how to begin to build networks with them. How do you get to that space?
I think that will definitely go back to what your objectives are. I mean, you need to know where you want to be.
Yes.
For you to know who is the most important person along your path. If it's somebody maybe in marketing, if it's somebody in government, if it's somebody in the police. I mean, I'm driving from Kisumu to Nairobi. I have the Kenya Garage red plates because my number plate is not ready. So, I mean, between Kisumu and Nairobi, I have 4 numbers of people I can call just in case I'm pulled over and maybe the cop doesn't know or doesn't understand what I'm trying to say. So it ties back to what is your objective? What is your purpose? And then now you need to build an ecosystem around your objectives and your purpose and get the right people to surround you.
I like what you're saying because we live in a social media driven world today, and we'll talk about social media a bit later in terms of how we can use it to leverage on some of this networking. And we live in a space where you have 100,000 people who follow you and like you, but when you are really in need, you can't even pick 2 numbers to call, you know, because these relationships are not necessarily intentional, and they're not adding any kind of value headed in any kind of direction, you know. And so I like what you're saying, you know, and I'm just wondering how can, especially the younger generation, I find that older people have got stronger networks than the younger generation today. How can we teach the younger generation to be very deliberate, first of all, in knowing where they're going, and then how do they build relationships? Because, man, we live in this world today. Even building relationships is hard. Kevin? Kevin, you want to take that?
You know, especially people who are 25 and below. And I don't know whether it's a culture, I don't know if it's the time, but there's a lot of laxity in that age group of between 18 and 25. If you ask me, it's my personal opinion. And, you know, like I was driving with my dad yesterday from Nairobi to here, and my dad is 82 years old. And he got a call from a young person's father, asking my dad to help him get a job. He's done catering, so he wanted to get like a restaurant. And I'm like, it's that guy's father calling my dad.
Yeah.
And I asked my dad, who's going to help him get the job? Is it you or is it me? And then my dad told me it's me. Then why is the young person not calling me directly? You know, and it's something that we constantly have to talk to young people about, because they really don't see the dangers ahead in that age group. And you know, sometimes you need somebody to be harsh. You said something about throwing under the bus.
Yeah.
Sometimes somebody needs to throw you under the bus. My older brother used to give me 6,000 shillings when I was in campus consistently every month. But as soon as he heard I'm about to graduate, he said, please note that after your graduation, our contract is over. I don't care where you live. I don't know where you're going to stay. But please note that I'm only giving you up to the day you graduate. And trust me, the 6 months notice he gave me, I didn't sleep. I had to go around and do so many other things to help me at least not have to sleep outside after that. So at some point, I know it can be crude. We get this a lot, especially in agencies, but sometimes we need to be thrown under the bus just a little bit.
Okay.
By somebody who cares.
Yeah.
Not somebody who leave you to just stop.
Okay. We are talking about your network is your net worth. If you have any questions for my two guests today, feel free to join this discussion by texting in 20316 is the SMS line. WhatsApp number 0786316316. Your network is your network. Is your net worth. Is that statement true? What exactly does it mean? We're hanging out with founder and MD of Glasshouse PR, Mary Njoki, and also MD Color PR, Kevin Otiende. If you have any questions for us today, 20316 SMS line, WhatsApp number 0786316316. You know, Kevin, I was just thinking about the story you told about your dad, and I remember a couple of years ago I was attending my niece's wedding, you know, and my cousin rose up to introduce a gentleman. He said, this gentleman must speak. And he said, we went to the same primary school, we went to the same high school, we ended up in the same campus. He was my best man, I was his best man. He has to say something. My daughter is getting married. And I thought, wow, how do you sustain a relationship that long? You know, as guys, and you're that close. That was just impressive. And so I'm just wondering, Mary, in this generation, how can we use technology, especially social media, to be able to build strong networks, as opposed to just having 500,000 people following you, and then the day you decide you want to stand for a political post, kura ni yako na ya bibi yako na watoto wako wawili. So Mary, how do we use social media and technology to build strong networks?
I don't think social media was meant to build relationships.
Really? But it's social.
I mean, seriously, when you go to Instagram, when you go to Twitter, when you go to Facebook, maybe LinkedIn, I love LinkedIn, I'm a fan of LinkedIn. I don't think social media was meant for communication. So it was meant, when it started out, it was meant for you to communicate with the people that you know. So already you must have built relationships. And that's why even when you're adding a friend on Facebook, it says, this is James Okumu, you might know him, or you might, you know, and you see you have mutual friends with this particular person. So I don't think it was meant to build relationships. And over time, it has proved that. That's why, you know, someone can be doing a campaign, you have like 250,000 likes, and then when the day comes, as you've said, the kura yenye iko hapo ni yako na, you know, your family. So I don't think we should look at social media that way. I think it goes back to us being human beings that are willing to relate and are willing to have relationship outside of social media. Actually, what is even happening right now, the generation that is after us, I don't know where I am, but anyway, I'm somewhere in between.
Yes.
But there are some guys who are like the age of 18, 19, 20 who are they're not joining. They're leaving Facebook. They're not on Facebook. They're joining Instagram or this platform where you just put content for 24 hours and then it disappears, and that's why stories have become so popular. So they're not even there for a relationship. They're just there to flex. They're there to do weird things and then they go out. But the other issue is I don't think they have relationships on the ground. Kwa ground vitu ni different. So it's a very complex situation.
Kevin, do you agree with what Mary is saying?
Yeah, it's very complex, but it goes back to teaching them to know who they are. And then I think the more you become and you know who you are, the more you attract, let me use that word, like-minded people who now give you strength. So I'll still go back to giving you strength and you giving them strength rather than you using each other.
Okay. Kevin, what do you agree with Mary on the social media angle?
No, I do not.
Yes. I could tell by the expression on your face.
Yeah. I mean, I think social media is meant to build relationships. It depends what kind of relationship.
Okay.
I mean, each of these platforms is quite unique. The characteristics are very different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so many people met on Facebook and they're married today with many children. Same for Instagram. Professionally, in fact, let me go back to a story.
Mm-hmm.
I was just a small-time journalist when somebody sent me a message on Facebook that they like my jokes. I used to be a bit of a character on Facebook, like prior to 2014.
Oh.
So somebody just sent me a message, turned out to be the HR of a big organization, and she told me that she wanted me to go for an interview at the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I mean, I think that was the maybe second major milestone along my career path. And I mean, that's Facebook, you know, that's somewhere you'd think that people are only talking other topics.
Yeah.
Now, on LinkedIn, personally, LinkedIn is the most important digital platform for any professional today. I get a lot of connections on LinkedIn. I get a lot of assignments from LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last 2 years, I can attribute maybe 25 to 35% of our revenues coming directly from LinkedIn. But you have to be very purposeful about it. You need to know the kind of message that people on LinkedIn like. I'd post something on Facebook, but if you see how I post it on LinkedIn,
mm-hmm.
it's two different messages, because these are two different audiences with two different tastes and preferences.
Okay.
So it depends on how you use the social media platform to connect and to build meaningful relationship.
Mm-hmm. You know, I'm just thinking, when I think back to maybe some of our African cultures, relationships were big. I mean, relationships were, that's how we lived life. We lived life as a community. You know, in some houses you didn't knock, you just entered like it is your own house, you know, and they would welcome you. You know, even strangers would be welcomed, given something to eat, given a place to sleep, rest, so that you can continue with your journey tomorrow. And I'm just wondering, has, you know, just modernization and adopting some of these cultures and way of life from different communities across the borders, have they watered down this whole aspect of networking the way we had it back in the day, Mary?
First of all, I want to go back to the previous conversation just a bit.
Yeah.
I agree with Kevin in terms of, you know, I mean, LinkedIn is also very important to me. And I've done, I mean, we've gotten a lot of business, and, you know, it depends on how you use a social media platform.
Mm-hmm.
But I think maybe we need to separate, even as I go to the other question about what, when you say relationships, what do we mean?
Mm-hmm.
And earlier I was talking about relationships where, you know, you can go to someone's house, you know, without knocking. You can go to their kitchen and cook food for yourself, etc. And I think definitely because of modernization, I think we've really moved away from that. I grew up in the village.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone, it was not okay though. Like, everyone knew your business. It was weird. So when we moved to Nairobi, like, I actually don't think I know most of my neighbors. So it's usually very weird. You can't even go to your neighbor to ask for salt.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, they do what we call them. They do sometimes meetups where you meet your neighbors, but still it's like it's forced. It's like you're forcing this thing. They're forced relationships.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, modernization has changed it. Maybe it's the trauma most of us faced when we were growing up.
Okay.
Where everyone was in all your business. But I think it's something that can be adjusted. I think there's still hope. And yeah, I mean, having lived in both worlds, I can see the difference. I can see how different it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Kevin, does this whole concept just apply where business career is concerned, or even just life in general?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
I'm saying, does this concept of your network is your net worth, does it apply only where business and career is concerned, or is it a general concept in life?
It's a general concept in life. In fact, we can call it social capital.
Social capital.
Because, because I mean, let me give you a quick story. I think it was around November last year. There's a young guy who sent me a message at about 7 in the morning asking me for 2,000 shillings. I checked my phone. I had more than 2,000, and I took a screenshot. And then I told him, unfortunately, I'm unable to send you the money today. Sorry. So I took a screenshot because I didn't have an opportunity to explain why.
Okay.
So about 4 months later, I was driving with that young guy to Kirinyaga, and I told him the story of why I didn't give him the 2,000 shillings. It's because the previous 11 messages he had sent me, he was borrowing money.
Oh.
No good morning, no how is your family, no how is work, nothing. So he uses me more as an ATM. So I told him that is the same reason why I could not give you the money. And it was really, really soft because I don't think anybody had ever told him the truth. So I think it's a general concept because if, for example, there's a job opportunity, who do I remember? It's the person I spoke to last or the one before that. But if you spoke to me 4 months ago, last year, and you keep telling me, you just tell me to send me your CV and you never do anything about it.
Yeah.
So it's a general concept in life. And I think it's far more important in life, in the social life, than in the professional life. Because if you can hack that one, then you can definitely hack in terms of your career.
Then what would you tell, Mary, those people who say, me, I'm an introvert? Me, I forming relationships, connecting with people, hapo nakuwaga na shida sana. Me, I like talking to machines or my cat and my dog. What would you tell such a person? There are people who are all the life of the party, forming relationships. They do it without even thinking they can talk to anyone. I've got friends like that. But then there are those who like staying in their own cocoon. How do they break free?
I think number one is to think of where did these concepts even come from? Because I have never had my mother say or my grandmother say that she's an introvert. So I think number one, we were taught things, and then now we started giving excuses, or rather, modernization brought some things, and we started thinking in a certain way, and therefore, when you don't want to do things, we give excuses using what we were taught. We use those temperament as excuses not to connect with people. We use, and it's again modernization. Yet I know there are people who are genuinely, it's hard for them to connect to people, and others it's easy for them to connect with people. But I don't think we should use temperament as an excuse, because I have people who used to say they're introvert, but when they're the most talkative people when they become comfortable. Now that's the other thing. Like I have like a couple of friends, like 4 or 5, who they would be like, oh, I'm so introverted. Wait, like when they're comfortable with you, they talk the whole night. So I don't necessarily, it's there, but I think it came about when we created so much room, and I'm not saying modernization is bad. We created so much room for someone else to shape the way we think. So we now give that, we use that as an excuse.
Yeah.
But those people talk, I don't know, the introverts, I know they look quiet around people. When you get them to a room where they talk, I'm like, you're the one who was quiet the whole time in that event. They talk. So I think it's just knowing who you are, and there's a concept called your tribe. Just knowing who your tribe is, and your tribe, there are people who you share value with, people who you have certain things you believe in. If it's, and we connect differently. People connect through business, other connect through church, other connect through different aspects. Then when you come together, people are able to know who they can give strength to and receive strength to. I know now, speaking, we have a lot of people who are going through depression and all these things just because they didn't have someone to talk to. So it's just encouraging people, especially now that we're on a media platform, just stop giving an excuse about that you can talk to people because of this particular thing you had. Let's just what's the word? Just know who you are, and then you'll start attracting the people who you need for your life to grow, and the people who you will help in life to grow.
Okay. I've got a message here that says, what you guys are talking about is true. I discovered this is so real years ago when I struggled to fill at least three referees on my CV. And you could not get 3 referees to put on your CV. Wow. As we finish, because my time is almost up, both of you are in the PR space. So what tips can you give us? What have you learned along the way? How can we build better connections? Evan, what tips can you give us?
Tips is like what Mary said, just as an analogy. I mean, don't let this philosophy get into you. Don't try and justify your inconsistencies. If you do that, then you're going to mainstream, and then you're the one who's going to lose. The other thing is, I come from a media background. I was trained as a journalist, and the first lesson we were told is you must have the nose for news. This is applied everywhere. Mm-hmm. Whether you're a doctor, you need to know the latest trends in your field. If you're an engineer, you need to know what technologies guys are using. So I think always be in a place where you are constantly acquiring information and knowing what's happening around you. Now, if you couple those two with your network, then that you have the best recipe for success. And it doesn't come too fast. I think also we need a disclaimer that these things don't come too fast. Mm-hmm. I saw there's a gentleman called Michael Query. I think he's the vice president of Airtel. There's one time he posted on LinkedIn, somebody asked him why he was in a meeting for 15 minutes. And he said he spent the last 30 years to perfect how to do something in 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. So you're not paying for his time, you're paying for his experience. Mm-hmm. So if we couple that, we need just to tell young people it doesn't work really fast. I mean, I know Mary's story.
Oh, we've lost you. We seem to be losing you, Kevin. You're back. And then you've gone again. Maybe, Mary, you can weigh in a bit on this as we finish because my time is almost up. Kevin, we keep losing you, yeah. Network yako haiko stable sana.
Yeah, I was stuttering. Somebody called me. I'm sorry, I just blocked it down.
Okay. Yeah, you were saying? Yeah. You're saying you know Mary's story?
So I mean, we all started way back.
Yeah.
It's been close to a decade of just doing the same thing over and over again. Mm-hmm. So these things don't come really as fast as we want them to come. So just have the patience, have the nose for news, and know who you're aligning with.
I like that. The patience part is very true. I like that. Mary, anything to add to that as we finish?
I think for me, I mean, he's covered it well, but it's to be patient. I think that is what was in my mind as well. And to be consistent. I think consistency is very important, and to truly understand that things don't happen in one day. Like, you have to have, I mean, people are looking for people who are consistent. People are looking for people who can bring value to the table. Mm-hmm. And I think of, even when I'm talking to, I know, like, okay, where I come from, if they see me talking to someone in government or someone they deem important, they're like, hey, huyo mtu atatusaidia aje. But I go with the mind of, what am I bringing on the table? What value am I bringing on the table? So when I'm meeting, whether it's a president or whoever I'm meeting, I'm like, I'm going to them, approaching them with, this is the value I'm bringing on the table. So that, and as I'm saying, this is the value I'm bringing on the table, I'm able to show a track record of how I've been consistent, how I've been patient. So, and that's how I think, PR is, where, you show the consistency, the what you've done over time, as Kevin has said, but yet what value I bring on the table. Yeah.
Wow. Kevin and Mary, thank you guys so much for finding the time to be with us this morning. We appreciate your insights and your wisdom into this discussion. Asanteni sana.
Thank you for having us.
Awesome. My time is up. I've just remembered a couple of months ago, a friend of mine had put a post on Facebook, and he was addressing men. And he was saying, men, if you can count at least 3 people that you can pick up the telephone and call them in your hour of need, and they will put down everything they are doing to come to your assistance, you're a blessed man. Just 3. You are very, very blessed. I pray that you and I will know what we are bringing on the table, just like Mary has said, and be patient to build these relationships, just like Kevin has said, because indeed, no man is an island. We need each other. I'm out of time.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs, from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.